Hello, species value nature system. This is about the order of judgment, part two. Now, in other words, this is continuation of species coach. This is the means to convert humanity using pantheism science about the identity of value that our nature is, simultaneously as each person, as each group, and as the entire species. Grouped semi-separation and bonded is in a diffusion in relationship to what for complete nature's relationship to itself. Gases were before physical matter was bonded. It's most probable. This is the position of Anthony Wall of Ancient Gaming System of the Campus Marcius / Campus Marcius. Spelled with a C, spelled with a T. Long, chain, return. The species together, working together, revealed English. Now, this is also about dimensions. People have, each of the sciences have physical delusions because they're victims of this. Intersciences. Everyone missed this. Tribes A through Z missed this. Nations A through Z missed this. Colonists A through Z missed this. Colonies A through Z. They made the identity of England be here as an identity, forced nations individually grouped, not allowed to talk about how they're grouped when they were fake originally and still. Our founders left us to demonstrate sub-rosal statutes, laws, pretending that is law, and being tricks with the courts, the same way they were originally. Knowing, sequence shifting, forging names, offensive evidence reception, crime methods, roles and natures as victims, but as victim predators, as complete predators originally and still. Now that is reliant not by accident upon nations with so many impositions that are to the maintenance of what? Reactions to it. Retreats and forwards forced self-valued as what? By fact driven nature. Everything is only value. Value's body is in demonstration of its volume only fills. It does not leave. Does not leak. It lifts and gifts or leaves. Leads of hadiths. Then we are negative value nature to positive value nature progression somewhere else. There are proofs that modern religions are counterpositions to what took over the nature of sciences, that before there were criminally foreign influenced internation sciences, the entire species valued how to cause evolution by being valued to what is the order of the individual finite. So individual person, the value to what is active simultaneously, the value of what is progressive, so our species value. As this Trinity's relationship as three dimensions inside five semi-dimensions as two more semi-dimensions. The nature of leverage before matter, the nature of leverage that is a bond to matter, the nature of leverage that is the progressive value from that active, as life connected to it, like root, like life, like trees and plants, life as with heartbeat, whatever. In other words, there's the leverage before matter to bond, matter to bond. Then there's active bond, the active value progression with the bond. So that's three semi-natures of itself. This leverage of value progression. Then there's the progressive value, still more, and then there's the value of that, which is gaining simultaneously. which is the only way. And this is a perfect value progression that Earth's simultaneous, distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature is. Earth's difference is this course. This identity is identity of relationship to itself. The five. So this is about the five. I'll do a real quick one after this about the five semi-natures of leverage. Before the bond to matter, as the bond to matter, as that active, as that value gaining, as that progressive, as that value gaining. Life is a progression, constant. It's a quality of diffusion, positive or negative, in relationships to complete identity, which is also simultaneously gaining the whole time apart from that, as what was this value before, this nature of leverage before that didn't mix with what it bonded for, and what was a little bit was more than that. Also another semi-nature. In other words, these five semi-natures, Islam and English together saved us from the Dark Ages. The religions together, they were part of the whole thing. Everyone, each area, each identity of the ground. This identity of leverage was before, while being the value of the bond, anything that comes from it, what is active, what is progressive, and what is the value of that simultaneously, which is one complete nature's complete identity of relationship to itself. And as the value of that is what by and as a nature that is only gonna accept the perfect value increase with its own as itself, as the gaining nature of positive that is also without criminal foreign influences, that nature of positive. And with regards to what is actually bonded onto, and as the value of our invisible but still so discernibly valuable fact treatment nature, regards to what inventions are going to work or not. Excuse me, what fact treatment nature is going to work or not. Justice has been negative value nature justice in semi-ancient times, not by accident, self-value. All victims of a method that knew that once that's self-value, they could perpetually exploit that standing life progression, cover up nature's needs, roles, and styles per method that does this. When I was in sixth grade, there's a see this I made me understand it now as an adult, because there are men with a principal child offender they put in jail purportedly, but they also have fake news with it. They have tricks because they have crimes in other cases they use those people for. People associated with that putting him away. We're also involved further child offenders because they're intercampuses. This is a crime method that is an identity theft. In the way it's an identity theft is how we are in nature of volume. But they have education tactically obfuscated. Intercities, we have the same exact or minority to the maintenance of the roles with narratives of jobs and things like that. They shouldn't make opinions on things then. So, in other words, this also is about what confessions are about. Indirectly, because this is about what is beyond their control, and using confessions because it's keeping what's originally left by our founders to demonstrate left entrenched, overtly criminally foreign influence, human fact treatment nature, not just human sensibilities, but human value of our identity of relationship to the ground, which is again identity of a value progression system perfect in relationship to what is going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, evolution or not. There's an organized crime method sickly distinctly upon Hartford, Connecticut that is right but discerning this is how you discern what is really positive is about. So we need forgiveness for the people who need to tell this, because, in other words, the other people that are pretending to be the law are liars. They're told they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, pretending that they're legally liars. That's because they were raised on, for what was exploiting this. Everyone missed. Well, and then everyone self values it. So they're preventing free speech as yet. That this is not by accident that everyone has glorified the things that were associated with the identity thefts of America's founders. They are using forced aggression, interbranch, with people associated with them, foreign and domestic and overt criminal enterprises, inclusion with a whole bunch of natures of crime acts originally instilled. See, that keeps a whole bunch of people needing to hide lies and uses of the identity of the ground in relationship to other people they don't even know, and they pretend it's natural, you know, because because the people that the people do know about are this way, are, recorded overtly interbranch, have been formal representation of facts treatments offensively criminally against a whole bunch of people, and those people have been doing the same thing. So everyone's a frustrated. Everyone, this is a trap. Modern nations and a semi-ancient organized crime method that was entrenched here since before our founders' births, exploiting the identity of the grounds, identity of relationship to itself, and exploiting the value of that, which is not only value progression perfect, but but as a gaining nature of volume. Not only as a gaining nature of volume, but as a gaining nature of volume, specifically why we are fact treatment nature with details. So we have details that, with knowledge being used originally and still, intersciences, directors of foreign and domestic nations in collusion, valuing agreements with psychology with medication that's overtly tied to what is recorded, juxtaposing natures of crime acts and people to collusion with this. We have offensive, then everyone's saying haters and things like that. Everyone stayed base. In other words, they need to be, we have child abuse branches, modern nations, each one, we have child abuse sciences, stewards, from off the ground of education, relationship, and then on off campus, the sciences, and all tied to them privately in layers. And then the branches were realized through a trap set up that they knew that there was going to be a revolution from. And they were measuring it and taking it out in stages for this effectively having been maintained. The only difference is that James Madison preempted this a little bit, and with George Washington. See, to understand this, you have to understand how they had to leave slavery overt with color in Hartford, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Hartford, right between New York and Boston. They had slavery in Boston. They had slavery in New York still. That was by what was using the identity of nations. It was forcing England to be an identity. It was forcing Spain to be an identity. Forcing like China to be an identity. Forced to not to talk about shared policing, knowing that everyone was going to have to blame other things, others themselves. Everyone not needing to react to criminal foreign influences, but not knowing who to blame them on. Because the states and areas were maintained, through this evil, all victims in the trap. and insidiously. See the word criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer, not plea form, not a criminal. It was recorded too originally. Still, how they had lawyers, fake sides of faction, fake integrity. For example, Immanuel Kant writes about the critique of pure reason, but he didn't have free speech. It was conformed to a theater. In other words, correlation has an identity. And this is about the identity of reason, which is about, I mean, this is what the reason is about, how we are an identity of volume. Its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. Not just why we need water. Okay, that need is filled. This is why and how we need water. This is why and how we're going to be its relationship to itself that reveals means from nowhere, evolution's fruits and gifts. The same identity that is simultaneously doing that is forcing them from here, lethal IDs. That's why we're going to space. The only reason this is masked, this conversation with the exception, the identity of exception of it to it is being worse than obfuscated because we're in value nature systems maintained self-valued for that. Tricked, hurt, persuaded, and worse, maintain self-value. Modern nations in a semi-ancient trap. Therefore, I rap. The devil is an organized crime method. This is the position of the ancient gaming system of pantheism, which also comes with voting. But this also comes with, some people aren't going to go with all parts of the gaming system, so we're going to make that separate from the campus marcias, which is, but the ancient gaming system goes also with New York because, in other words, this is nations. In other words, have the ability right now to put pantheism to play this game together. In other words, to understand, to admit that we're in a value nature system, that our actual nature's identity of value is tactical ulterior from, and where it's going to only keep the volume of positive that is also positive onto itself gaining, which is the difference of Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to space nature. We're going away from we're losing we're now becoming, the rest of nature has no criminal foreign influences, even though these were legalized. They say, oh, but it's illegal, you can't sue the government. They're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminally involved personally with defendant, former director of the FBI. The media is. Then they take it personal. Then they make attacks that are aggression. These are juxtaposed their roles with child offenders, their roles with more trade center predicate acts and predicate method to them. And the ones seated, they were seated to those motivations and for interest to it. Even though it was my father with a legal suit against defendant, former director of the FBI in the 2006 case, and this was in the trade center attack context, right before the trade center attack inside the Ninth Circuit, right next to the Trade Center. Post-dated documents had been showed to the panel of judges, and then it was later proven that they had been hand-delivered, time-stamped on time, to the Ninth Circuit in Manhattan. And then the Trade Center attack happened, but they ruled it was filed late. Then that proven led to a 2006 case now in Connecticut. In that case, /S, there was defendant, former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law, Robert Luskin. His co-defendants, a Dominic Lapriata, a Charlie LeConch, and a Thaddeus Grabowski, and other federal criminals that were not his defendants. I don't know. They were also involved with crimes against me, with others in other cases too, in other depositions, other communications with judges and things like that, because they're controlling not only their sensibilities, but their nature or volume as a criminal seriousness nature, of positive, of truth, of what the value of truth and of what facts are, and because of their sequence shifting styles, because of their forging names, switching names, pretending things into databases through time, attaching lies to truths and totally making up fake ones. See, and they're forcing fights between people. At the same time, they have people that you don't even know that are tied to interstates, like with a whole bunch of women named Alicia when they were girls that were facilitated to crimes with a Joshua Julian and a Joshua Stryker with Trinity College and a Highcrest School recorded and confessed crimes with proven and further recorded involved with the kids, child offenders, also entered religious spots. This is also per how they have FBI and see this is various natures of crimes. They're exploiting how they have them juxtaposed, and then everyone reverts to types of experts. Then where these types of experts are being used to further those things, and the defenses of these identities of the law originally instilled here and there. Modern nations are in an identity of negative value nature progression. So we need free speech. We have election. We have the FBI as election crime rules pretending to be against collusion with Russians. They were recorded and involved with the collusion of Russians, like with a what's his name, Justin Klavinskis. They use him through time. Other military families still, military police, rat mobs they want you to call them rat mob because then they pretend there's integrity what they pretended in databases. They use their his wife and child. He also confessed, demonstrated, recorded, involved with database crimes with them and with people associated with the Samuel Dix house area, that hill, from and people associated on Church Street and with the corner of Church Street with drug crimes, drug crime rolls with the policing against that. For how it's all naive because they're tied to this drugstore, this that, and they're training with the colleges, especially ones with psychology. Recorded and confessed involved with child offenders, with various natures of courts criminally involved with uses of that too for tortures, and the shock and awe method. For example, with and as the ones that are now involved with mail crimes, wire crimes, forging names, switching names as officers, forging names, switching names with the courts involved with that, switching sequences. These are people tied to the proven sequence shift affected from inside the Ninth Circuit Trade Center attack context, Manhattan. These people also were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved criminally with leading up to and sensibilities of all victims in the all ways. But whatever victim predators in Washington, myself included. I got scared. I didn't mean to poor Minister Methvin. I mean, I didn't even recognize him, so I had no communication with him. It was Eugene Methvin wrote a 1989 Reader's Digest article about this. These are people exploiting originally and still how we have a criminally foreign influence military. The VA is criminally involved with this. For example, they're just exploiting every identity of the ground. The shared policing of the stores. Then, if you try to talk about it, they bring up they don't. They say, "Well, I don't know. I was trying to investigate or whatever." Because these are now WFSB is recorded and confessed involved further with the on off campuses men and women interbranch coaching kids to cover their life progressions criminally, and while they're juxtaposing in all kinds of nature of recorded online sex crime acts, and then in as rolls with that in the cases and with the people with the courts, forging names, switching names, criminal uses of states attorneys to keep they use Me Too to offensively pretend they're for mandated law because they're how they're victim predators. Forgiveness was for this to permit correlation nature, free speech with it simultaneously with sequence true, inherent, active, and progressive means, and by means beyond that, which cause positive value nature progressions, acts in nature's evolution's fruits and gifts as an identity of relationship to itself that will only stay. And or it will because we're a value nature systems now tactical ulterior from this, it will force Earth's value from here, Leith of Hades. Too long this one species had wasted Earth because we have criminal foreign influences, because we're not valuing how we are individual finite active, and we are progressive nature of volume bonded by what is positive or negative further by what is an identity also semi before and after this gaining value. That's why because after our acts are done, after even each second, after our value in relationship to everything is done, that value is still gaining, positive or negative. Negative force it from here, lethal IDs. That's why we're valuing. We were made to self-value this by a semi-ancient organized crime method. They knew once they had, they knew one, nature itself would demonstrate degradation of the campus marxist that the species revealed working together. This ancient republic for which we stand was not yet liberated. This was English was revealed by the nature of the species working together. Yin yang goes right inside of all. That's why yin, the feminine, comes first, and alpha, the male comes first, left to right, because that's not positive or negative. And this is where the Trinity comes into demonstration. This is where the three dimensions come into demonstration. This is also already having invested the branches, all private tied to them, having hid lie progressions, hid their actually recorded nature by forging names, switching names, pretending things recorded into databases through time. These are people with psychology. Everyone gave up to them. They can't speak, so they restrict it to courts where they make things up, forge names, switch names, fake conversations. These are roles with their prisoners and patients. Crime acts with them online and before that. Interbranch policing, uses of Facebook, uses of the identity of the FBI's value. They're not letting values course told. They failed to explain the organized crime method they use color. They have recorded black and white criminality with child offenders proven and further recorded. Uses criminal needs to use A-B examples of what is right, what you should do in reaction to things, tied to what they're doing, what they're starting off with grammar school. It was worse than just sexual. It was the other natures of child abuse all juxtaposed. It's a crime method where they have timed people's relationships to databases and means maintained overall identity as a ground. They with a mixed demonstrated how mixed with overt criminal enterprises, with private ones originally still valued, with military still criminally foreign influence, delusions raw, free speech not permitted because they even online. So then what do they have to do? Pretend things. They're using statutes that criminally consciously. So they're not following mandated law. This shows how they're using each of the religions, sensibilities, natures, either roles. This is through time adapting too. Sickly, distinctly, so they don't see it. This is a method. This is that maintains all roles self-valued originally and still. That's how we have the zoning laws. We have the infrastructure of George Washington had to come to Wethersfield right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War with the French generals. Even with the French generals' help, had to leave overt slavery with color. That was a breaching organized crime method using breaching human factory nature. Make people pretend positive. If anyone was met to have been talking about building infrastructure outside the pathology they were setting forth, tactically denature relationship to nature, causing negative value nature progressions consciously, they would hurt them. Everyone was a slave. Who doesn't do that? They're keeping a theater that is keeping the sensibilities of what is great might and strength to people with the phenomena of black skin because of this in those areas. And you know what? They even this everyone not even allowed to speak about that. Only people that are going to have with the narratives of jobs, of motivations, dishonestly, in other words. And so they take it away. And then, in other words, they convert it to what is an identity of negative value nature progression since semi-ancient times, before modern nation self-value. You can't value that. You can't hide how the quality of factory nature because you need to hide agreements to hide how you have plain clothes police. Just the suit and tie is it's not even debatable. It's tied to criminal incompetence. That's debatable, but it's not debatable a lot of ways that are inseparable from it. Where and as and how our organized crime countering bodies are all branches, individually, group, sex, age, everything, criminally foreign influence, victim predator tools of what this method does. There's a Joshua Julian also recorded and confessed with the principal child offenders campus, with more of them tied to it, but his roles was spreading lies with overt criminal enterprises, juxtaposed natures of them, with groups involved with him with various natures of identity theft crime acts and crime roles with databases and with people tied to the Samuel Dix house, which is right around the corner from the middle school and from the high school, with more people on and off those locations further involved with with intercities, various natures and ages of campuses, even adult campuses, further criminally involved. And how old is someone? Well, I'm saying adult, university, college. We have had anticipated through time, originally still recorded, not just confessed, roles with Washington tied to areas, Washington tied to Trade Center tied to areas. They have agreements with triages, intercities involved with identity thefts, putting people faked into hospital locations and things like that too. Forging names, switching names, all kinds of things stacked at once. They pretend they do fake, they mess up police reports, so they switch names, forge names, put a whole bunch of things so they can just keep adapting, keep the headaches, and keep it having the time of the police officer have to move. They're using the time of these are people involved with the criminality with the elderly homes too, other natures of formal drug because the probate courts are criminally involved. The criminal uses of private attorneys to make the illusion of people having been in the same location and pretending not to really because they're controlling. These are tricks where you're not even involved with those depositions and things like that. But we have people pretending to record things through time on off CCSU, on off Farmington Avenue, involved with FBI, on off a club and campus on campuses like in Middletown. Really, relationship to their on off play. Look, each of the departments of each of the colleges are in are as a tool for what took the value of the identity of the grounds inseparable relationship to our quality of fact, nature, active and progressive. And while it is inherent active and progressive simultaneously as a gaining nature of volume in relationship to this identity of value. that we all share, which has a valuable relationship to itself. It forces this. It forces evolution's means from nowhere and or leads of Hadiths. Force the value as nature is from here. It's no joke. Black smoke. So this is a quality diffusion. Not white or black, for example, as the midnight sky is positive's identity of a relationship. There it is one natural volume that is in demonstration to us, filling. That's why we are forced to be grouped. Nations, areas, ages, sexes, species. See this, the campus Marcius returns. Who learns? Someone please share my YouTube too, because the people, they're forcing me only to be. See, no offense to other countries, but they're not letting people report. In other words, people who are truth and facts, who aren't using and allowing to be used those truths and facts criminally. They're not allowed free speech. If you ask for help on the internet, the people they're looking to cater to another nature of logic that is criminal this nature per them. As CNN, you can't legalize. In other words, they're quoting statutes, but they're leaving out how their crime rolls with the things they're pretending to be against, like child abuse. They're using Me Too as a means. In other words, this is juxtaposed natures of it and rolls with it, even of female judges, black and white, and this is their uses of color and of undercover. We have physical delusions again, victim predators, interbranch, intermilitary, internation, shared police here, there, sick. Identities of the law, no. All negative value nature since then, so many times you can't speak about identities course. Boxings of source alone. They use the force with theater here. They have police on and off the campuses in collusion with what is maintaining this criminally foreign influence through other nations, which maintain our directors' roles. We maintain various natures of courts' roles, those identity positions, the time where they're going to walk, where everyone's going to walk. They're keeping everyone either valuing how we're an identity of negative value nature progression or hurt, and everyone's identity stolen. This is an identity theft racket with databases. This is people that pretend that they're like. There was a Debbie Gold that was a daughter of a former mayor Gold. One time, a couple times, she came up to me and she was yelling at me like out of nowhere. I had no conversation with her. I hadn't even seen her since for like years before that when I was in sixth grade. But this was before that I was talking the first time. And then I totally forgot about it. She had come up to me and was yelling and stuff like that. And she had people near her, but I don't even know. They're exploiting these kids with not just mixed things. That's why they'll throw in rape threats and stuff like that because they need to pretend passions and emotions, and they need to hide their roles with the Alicias that are interstate. There are men and women with the name Bobby, foreign and domestic police on off campus, CCSU, all these campuses. They have shared policing, training of criminal justice, stuff like that. Those are identity of the law that are sick. Those are people involved with crimes with the people that are a long time running those prisons, criminally involved with them. Like with Sandy Hook, Newtown, that was recorded. All the interbranch, various natures of courts, their treatments of values are sick. They're with extortion methods. on whole areas, and then they pretend they're about it's about value because that's part of it. These all originally instilled that made all these motivations, nature's interests, and roles with these crazy things, blaming the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures on other things other than self, needing per jobs, per identities, the ground relationship to have everything blamed on other causes, not let free speech. Offensively pretend that the media recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they're told to pretend they don't like being called not real news because they know they did it personally criminally. They were directed to that they're recorded, confessed, involved with many that are involved with a house in my area, with extended family members, and with a whole bunch of people tied to them, with crimes with three of the federal criminals, co-defendants of former director of the FBI. And there are also crimes and cases. There's a Phil Cololo also recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved by Bob Chase and others involved with sequence shifts, identity theft crime acts with them, falsified police reports, rules crimes, identity theft crime acts, physical delusions with the states and areas leaders, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Fake investigations into things, only let realized identities of everything individually grouped and together sick. I'm not saying that this is all nations at once. And then they're not supposed to speak about how we share policing. This is the identities of law, still justice ill. Ill law. New York game. So this is what I want to do, what we need to do. Especially if we could do this in New York and simultaneously throughout the country and throughout the nations. We admit everyone in New York plays a game. We're gonna make like a relief package for the people most strained. And you got to, for example, it's especially with regards to New York, it's cruel and unjust punishment to have marijuana criminalized. To not have, in other words, the people who can't afford that and they're stuck in people stacking and things like that. Those are to come out of this. We need to omit these kind of things and put the funds in place. It's not, in other words, until everyone's liberated, you can't have a free market. You will have fake sides. So you play communism, you play capitalism, and they're in collusion with all kinds of medical corruption, all kinds of mental corruption, where they're in criminality with the overt criminal enterprises in collusion, and with juxtaposed with other nations. That keeps natures of knaves here and there associated with Trade Center, associated with the fake counters to it, even if they believe it. They're not letting the first part of the Quran or the Old Testament as people pretending to be before it, not by accident. Free speech and fast. So so with the Trade Center attack, there are people from Connecticut Interbranch that were facilitated to all kinds of things growing up, and then with because they have families that are part of why you hide this tomorrow family too, and this Kerr family, and with the CCSU, and I never had anything to do with them. They pretended other. They pretended other. In other words, I noted the exceptions, and that was all of them recorded pretending other. I knew that, and I recorded that, and they also have a Mendes brothers. I had completely nothing to do with. I noted the exceptions. They pretended other. Two Mendes police now they're involved also when I was a kid with database crimes, with drug crimes, with police forms interbranch, forging names, switching names, using databases criminally. They used a Phil Colo, and a Fred Grisette. Fred Grisette. Phil Colo was also recorded and confessed and demonstrated criminally involved with the Fred Grisette, but I never saw them together. There might have been one time on the Brown Turnpike for that I never saw them together. Well, I went in a parking lot for a second, and maybe they took a picture because they tried to. Because these are people that they're trying to. These are people involved with crimes with a principal child offender. They proved also other proven child offenders and people involved with foreign and domestic involved with stop and shops with that and with their family members involved further with the town offices criminally foreign and domestic military facilitated to it on and off body dumping spots through time with crimes with people with the transition from ACA to RICO, Organized Crime Control Act, to Racketeering Influence to Corrupt Organization Act, crimes with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, associated with crimes with a Faenza family, reported and confessed crimes with WFSB interbranch and on and off the state judicial branch offices, also with black and white interbranch, using that for their roles in their crime acts, roles with forging names, switching names into branch, switching sequences into branch, as the same ones intercampuses, crime acts with databases, verbal federal crimes, sequence shifts, identity theft crime acts, typing media fake locations with others into branch through time. A whole bunch of confessions tied to people, a whole bunch of people with New Britain Superior Court retired and standing, long standing and newer from my town, with my town's interbranch and intermilitary and foreign in collusion. They have a crime method that they demonstrated was tied whatever I don't know Debbie Gold and what they put in the databases, but it was lies. And in other words, it was to pretend that I had a conversation with her that I had affected with her yelling at me. In other words, I might do my own business. I never bothered anyone when I was in school. So that's one thing. And so then there's an Abruzzi, a Mr. Abruzzi. And see, this was the first time she did that too. I didn't connect it at the time, but there are two O'Brien brothers and their parents, associated with extended family members, also associated with policing and things like that, interbranch, prisons and stuff like that, like Newtown and Newtown. And these are people involved with medical corruption. These are people involved with the child offenders now criminally, and with that with their roles with insidiously with religious spots and with as the ones keeping various natures like Jewish community centers also. These are people that are involved with other religion now. And also insidiously they're using gay groups and passions and emotions with people who are being used to prevent finite, active, inherent, and progressive crime acts from being demonstrated because they invested them to roles with a nature of child abuse that is before the ground of education from they don't even understand. But then it's on off campuses. They understand that they did bad. They hid their live progressions. They hid what they weren't supposed to do, offensively aligned with evidence reception, criminal uses of Congress through time, involved with the various natures intercity courts criminal use. There are people and involved with intercities, with East Hartford, various nature police, foreign and domestic, criminally involved, with on off locations with they're building aircraft there, etc. These are people involved with the demorals criminally, with Jennifer Cormier, and right down businesses and places down the street from there, like an intercommunity place, recorded and confessed and demonstrated, involved crimes with proven child offenders, with retired and standing judges, people associated with on and off the policing of locations like the Weathersfield Department of Transportation. See, when they're those people, they go do social things, they raise money, whatever like that. They're keeping everything pseudo positive used for other natures of crimes. They're keeping the sensibilities of people, preventing free speech, identity theft, opinionators that are ill. You know, they're using everyone criminally. They're recorded lying to family members about what they're doing through the kids. They're pretending it's the right. This is all the way up from the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. These are mail crimes, wire crimes, election crimes, and crime rolls with the FBI. There's an Ian up the street too, real or made up, demonstrated in court. Anyways, real, involved with a whole bunch of people associated with Mayano family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with sequence shifts, various natures of fake news crime acts, drug crime rolls with kids, identity theft crime acts rolls, database crime rolls, and with a whole bunch of other people associated with the house in my area involved with crimes and cases, and with the and uses of on and off policing platforms and on and off judicial platforms criminally in sustained ways. That them all kind of, it's too many juxtaposed natures of crime acts at once, where they're not letting anyone speak point out, report any of the acts. Highcrest School is confessed and demonstrated they're involved. WFSB is coaching them, and with they're involved. They're being coached to prevent the rest of the confessions and crime acts and lies they told about me to the kids and through the kids, because we have interbranch family members involved crimes with a proven child offender principle, but there are more involved with it still, and they're pretending it's personal. I don't even know them. They're not letting me speak. So then, and they're attaching me to conversations, and they're attaching my family members and other people's family members to fake conversations, fake locations, fake sequences, fake ties to other people, and with federal criminals that they sued and beat in an LRB case. Also recorded and confessed as crimes in other cases with the Leahy family that also attached me to fake conversations that weren't at all ever with the New Britain Superior Court and other various natures of courts involved with them criminally, and people involved with them criminally, intercampuses, interstates, and then in the trade center attack, tied to the same ones associated with that sequence shift. Also, forget about it. So we're going to see the map. We're going to have to draw. I don't get a response. Respond to how the, for example, respond to why every time you call the campus with the child offenders associated with it, they make things up and make it worse because they have their interbranch family members already lied about me. They use fake news to do this. There's a John Lyano also recorded, confessed, involved with those fake news crime acts and with the court with the girls intimately, and with these are women and men with the state's attorneys, forging names, switching names, forging names, sequence shifts roles, crimes with judges retired and standing against little kids, with the same ones, intercities, intercampuses, crime acts with death spots through time. And I'm not talking about the ones next to Trinity College all the time, because that's a whole bunch of state police people and military police people. I told you, they already demonstrated, FBI associated people, confessions, crime acts that were tied to that location, Zion Street, where they have shootings, Park Street. That's right around the corner from the Capitol. No, I don't know. Someone should. We need to be able to counter fake news stealing our identity, fake conversations with them, forging names, switching names, roles interbranch. That prevents anyone to make a sensible verbal counter. They're doing that because they have laws that they have the right to do things. But only if they use them legally. But they're not using them legally. They're forging names, switching names, and valuing others having done that and doing that. So we need a response, but they're forging names and switching names. Even judges are involved with this. Sequence shifts, acting to pretend they don't understand. Their evidences are ill. We have not one. We're not free. And then they have to go debate about what to do about nuclear weapons. We're going to space because we're lethal IDs. We're a negative value nature relationship to our nature's identity of value, identity of relationship to itself. Its value is that lethal IDs. Earth's value gone. Goodbye. Return to campus. Why? Try. Stay pure.